This episode is sponsored by Dr. Chrono by EverHealth, the #1 mobile all-in-one EHR. Built specifically for medical practices, Dr. Chrono includes an integrated feature that powers a seamless payments acceptance experience. Dr. Chrono Payments offers multiple ways for patients to pay as well as insurance credit card processing. As a Dr. Chrono customer, you can easily activate our fully integrated payment solution that will streamline your cash flow and help you get paid anytime from anywhere. Deliver the best patient experience with a fast and easy way to collect payments. Visit drchrono.com/payments. That's drchrono.com/payments to learn more about Dr. Chrono today. Direct primary care is an innovative, alternative path to insurance-driven healthcare. Typically, a patient pays their doctor a low monthly membership and, in return, builds a lasting relationship with their doctor and has their doctor available at their fingertips. Welcome to the My DPC Story podcast, where each week you will hear the ever-so-relatable stories shared by physicians who have chosen to practice medicine in their individual communities through the direct primary care model. I'm your host, Marielle Concepcion, family physician, DPC owner, and former fee-for-service doctor. I hope you enjoy today's episode and come away feeling inspired about the future of patient care, direct primary care. Melina Palmer is founder and CEO of The Brainy Business, which helps businesses leverage behavioral economics so customers buy and employees buy in. Her podcast, The Brainy Business, Understanding the Psychology of Why People Buy, has downloads in over 170 countries and is used as a resource for teaching applied behavioral economics for many universities and businesses around the world. She is the best-selling author of What Your Customer Wants and Can't Tell You, and What Your Employees Need and Can't Tell You. Melina is a globally celebrated keynote speaker who teaches applied behavioral economics through the Texas A&M Human Behavior Lab and obtained her master's in behavioral economics from the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. She is a proud member of the Global Association of Applied Behavioral Sciences, and Melina has contributed research to the Association for Consumer Research, Filing Research Institute, and writes on behavioral economics and business for Inc. Welcome to the podcast, Melina.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Delighted to be here.
As we hear doctors share their stories, we definitely hear how people are talking about behavioral economics without saying behavioral economics. So you are an expert. People have heard your bio already. You are an expert in behavioral economics, and that is something that is so necessary for people to understand as much as they can, because we're in this business of physicians going into a model of small business where we're creating clinics, most likely with a membership model as the core of how our patients are joining us, without MBAs in most cases. So let's start off with, can you tell us about what is behavioral economics and why should we care?
For sure. So behavioral economics is at this intersection of economics and psychology. I like to say that if traditional economics and psychology had a baby, you'd end up with behavioral economics. And the reason that the field came about is because traditional economics assumes logical people making rational choices in everything they do all the time. And as we're all human, we know that that's not exactly how it works, right? We have the best of intentions sometimes and then find ourselves not doing what we intended or wanted or what something said we should do. And so this field is essentially where you had psychologists, economists, neuroscientists, people working together, entering into one another's fields to try and see if there were these connections within the brain, ways that we could better predict behavior of what people will actually do instead of what someone somewhere thinks they should. And thankfully, there are lots of them. And that is how the field of behavioral economics is born. And so as an applied behavioral economist, I help people to understand what those rules are that the brain is using to make decisions so that you can use that in the way that you're communicating, in how you build out your business, whether that's on that customer facing side or with internal communication and employees, to make it just so it's easier for people naturally to do business with you.
we have customers who are our members. In my own clinic, I have people who I'm like, I never thought that you would join my clinic. And I have some people who are like, I knew for sure you were going to join. And so the physicians who are opening, especially if they're already known in the area, it's very interesting to see what happens in terms of members who join on at a practice. I want to go now into this idea after reading your book, The Truth About Pricing, which is a must read. And we'll get to where you guys can find the book as well as where to get a free chapter of that book, as well as Melina's other books. But I want to go into this idea of quality versus value. That's something that you hit early on in your book and you continue to talk about throughout because it's really setting the foundation for predicting what a person will do based on what they value. So, can you talk to us about what is a quality business versus what is a value business?
Absolutely. So the big thing that we tend to want to do, right? So we would look at our company and we say maybe you want to set up to be in that quality space, but then we also feel like we want to give deals and discounts. We start to look around at what everyone else is doing and we're very, we'll just say inspired by that of where we can feel pulled in all these different directions. And that's because we're a herding species. So we're looking to others like us to help us decide on the best action we should be taking at any given time. The problem is if you're doing that in a reactive way and you haven't built out the brand to say we're in camp A or camp B, it can make it to where it's very confusing for someone to classify your business and how they would be buying from you, right? So this quality and value aspect is, as you said, it's really one of the most important decisions that I think every company needs to make as they build out their brand messaging, their product offering, and ultimately their pricing. So, a quality business would be one that is in this luxury camp, or also if you're really kind of hanging your hat on a high level of expertise, if you know that it may be more expensive than other options around, it doesn't have to be just catering to celebrities or things like that, but it really is that you're built on additional research and development or something that is going to help you to stand out and be this stamp of excellence. If you're going to be in that side, you want to be looking at things like rounded numbers on your pricing, right? That simple decision to say it's $500 instead of say $499, which is what you would see on the side of a value business. And so a value business are those that are looking to showcase value first and foremost to those who are their customers or members, right? So you use discounts often, you have that rounded down pricing, you have language that's going to be tying in with this. So this is your Costco's, your Walmart's. It's a great business plan. Either side is a really great decision. When people land in the middle and try to do a little bit of both is where they go wrong. So committing to one, whichever one appeals to you, is fantastic, and just go all in on that.
I think it's so interesting to hear this because we have so many listeners who are creating their clinics, they're planning their clinics, but they haven't yet opened. However, there are people who have already opened. So for both camps, the people who have not yet opened and the people who have opened, one of the things that you talk about in the book is the copy on the website and making sure it is speaking to the quality or value model that you're bringing in your business. So I want to ask here about the word membership versus subscription because we see both used, but in your book you talk about the feelings that one gets when a person reads membership or hears membership versus subscription. So can you talk to when a person perceives those two words, what's the difference?
For sure. And so good news too for those who are listening, whether you've already launched or you haven't. So for those who are in the I've already done it and oh no, there's a mix of language here, right? Okay, don't worry about it. You can commit to something now even if you're already down the path and you can adjust. And so with that too, it's important to know that people aren't paying as much attention to us as we may like to think that they are, which in this case can be a real blessing, right? So to say, even if you've already been using a jumble of different numbers and you want to swap something out somewhere, you really have the option to be able to make those adjustments in a way that people won't notice as much as you think that they will. So it's okay to do that now if you decide you want to go one route or the other. As you're looking for a model that is going to align with whether you've chosen to be on that value side or the quality side, the something that's like a subscription is going to be more in that value approach, right? It is this transactional piece. I'm getting something here, and it's more like one on one with the business. Something that's on a quality side, maybe you have more interaction, more of this tie in of a brand identity. It's going to be more of that membership model. Sometimes those can include engagement at a point where you have benefits from the power of everyone else who's there with you in that model, right? So maybe we have interaction points that we're building additional value in to this idea that has more quality to it, whatever that may mean for you and your business. The thing that you can be keeping in mind as you're looking at your language, whether it's around this calling it a membership or a subscription, or if it's just your general approach in quality and value, is to be thinking about the way you talk about it and what's most important, right? Because we can reframe and say the exact same model with very similar pricing. We could adjust how we talk about it in a way that we're focusing on something else that's going to be very appealing to the right audience. And to for another DPC business, they could be saying, okay, we want to talk about it this other way, even if your model is almost exactly the same, if you're going to pick what's more appealing for you. So on a quality side here, we're not so worried about the price of what it costs to be part of this membership, right? So, what are these great value adds that someone would feel are worth investing in? And a word like investment is something that really ties in well with a quality business. And if it's not about the money, it's not about the price, it's about having exclusive advantages, right? That I'm able to directly connect. I have direct access to my doctor and they're going to make home visits or whatever these aspects are that tie in, or you have specific expertise that you're able to be leveraging or a network of other doctors that have specialties, whatever this is that ties in for you can be talking about that side of it. And then it happens to cost this much per month to be a part of the club, but maybe it's a scarcity piece that you only have a certain number of patients, members that can be in that club, so to say. And people don't want to miss out on that opportunity. You talk about how you only take on a certain number of patients. And if they want to be a part of your expertise, they pay for that. And that's going to appeal to a certain clientele. The other side, if you're looking to say, hey, insurance is really expensive. We don't want to have to be doing this in this way. So we've set it up in this everyone's bettering each other, community minded, and you pay a little bit less. We actually get more of that revenue and we're able to dedicate to you and spend more time. But it's on that value side conversation. And for the low price of, X 99 a month, you're able to be a part of this for that subscription to be able to have access to us. But it's not about all these, you don't want to then add in all these exclusive, expensive benefits because that's not what it's about. And that's going to make it to where the model, you're giving away things that that person doesn't necessarily want or need. And it's just making it to where it's less profitable for your organization.
It's super interesting because even yesterday I was speaking with a doctor who has their pricing on their website and it says for this price, these are all of the things that you get. And this price, these are all of the things that you get. And I wonder here, in terms of when a person is even looking at their own copy, do you find that it's more helpful for the brain to be able to buy into quality versus value if there is more copy versus less copy on a website?
Not necessarily. I think in general, it is easier to buy into anything when there is less copy. If it's really thoughtful, useful copy, when you have too much, we will look at that and go, we'll come back to that and may or may not ever do so. And especially if you're looking at something like healthcare where someone already has a real there's a lot of stress and strain and cognitive load there. It can be difficult to make decisions. And if it feels it's this small font and tons of words, no thanks, right? I don't want to deal with that. So having it to where you do have less, but it's really clear and concise. So I understand what the value is to me, and I can go look up additional details if I want. I can get some extra information about things that I may need to learn more about. But if I can very quickly see why this matters to me and it's going to really draw me in, and if you've been very clear in the word choices and how you're framing that value proposition, whether it's that quality side or value side, it's going to make it to where the right audience says, yes, that is the thing for me. One thing I do want to mention that we haven't said yet is a quality business can still be providing good value to the people that are coming to them. So it's not saying it's exorbitant for the sake of being so, right? It can still be a really good value, but that's just not the main point, right? That's not what you're focusing on. And the way that someone may classify that value is a little bit different. Similarly, we're not saying that a value business is of poor quality, but it's again not the main driving force of what comes out, what we think about those businesses. So again, bringing it to a Costco and talking about their website or even being in the space. It is very obviously a warehouse when you go into a Costco. They don't have fancy signage. They aren't doing big expensive ads. And when you do go to their website, it's simple in a way that says, "Hey, we spend as much as we have to for this thing to work for you and to make it easy to navigate, but we're not investing in really expensive marketing and things that you would then just have to pay for because we care about that value for you, our member," right? That's what it means to be a member of Costco. And you have some key points of value there. Whereas brands like Cartier or Louis Vuitton or whatever, that they are more on that quality side, they have a really luxurious simplicity when you are there. It's so thoughtful, and you get the little gift when you come in of they're serving champagne because you're going to try on engagement rings, and they give you little cakes, and it's velvet chairs, and it feels very different. And similarly, their website is one of this simple luxury, and you know that they invested a ton of money to make it that simple. And so you can still have the same concept, but in a very, very different way. And we are able to intuit, absorb as a human as you go in and go, whoa, like this is a thing. And it's either saying, wow, this luxury, I feel it. And it makes it to where I know either if I'm going to be investing in this, it's going to be expensive without them having to say, hey, it's really expensive. Right. Also, on the other side of that simple, like on the Costco side, you can feel it without them having to say it.
And I love that you have that example in your book. You go into detail about how they are still able to make a very good income, a very good profit at the end of the day, even though they lose money on selling their rotisserie chickens and whatnot. I think it's very interesting. If you're, as a listener, just really tuning in to what Melina is sharing about, definitely check out The Truth About Pricing. Just that's what I would suggest as a starting point, just because I totally get it. Like we're not talking about like DPC is the like crazy Eddie having all the sales. And we're also not talking about DPC as we're concierge medicine and we only provide care to rich people. And so picturing your own business while reading the book is very, very helpful. I feel like I was going through and thinking about all of the different parts of our business, how we find patients, how we market to them, the copy, just because I have my own website to put that lens on. So if you've already opened and your customers might not understand, are you quality versus value, and you're looking to strengthen one or the other. One of the things that we see often in DPC is people adding on one-off services for members as well as non-members. So I want to get your take on how you would talk to people and how you would challenge people to think if they're wanting to add to their primary care practice where they see colds and rashes and pregnant women and people who are in hospice, and they also want to add on aesthetics, or they also want to add on regenerative medicine or something that is available again to members and non-members. And people tend to do discounts for members versus not offering the same discount to non-members. Do you see that as really challenging to be able to stick to either quality or value if you're doing that type of one-on edition with either a discount for members or not a discount if the person is not a member?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to be considering through all of this as you're approaching your business and the decisions you're going to be making there is to be really thoughtful about why you're going to do anything. And to know, one, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. I make that point several times throughout the book. Just because everyone else in your space is doing it a certain way doesn't mean you have to do it that way. And so, and actually, in many cases, if everyone else around you is going for that kind of value subscription style, and you say, hey, like, I'm going to do the quality thing. I'm going to go membership and we're going to build it out this other way. That's amazing because you're going to fill a need that there are too many people doing maybe the other thing near you. So don't feel like you have to do one or the other. And then along the same lines, just because everyone else is starting to offer all these other things as maybe you have a mastermind group of others like you and you're seeing what they're doing and say, okay, I guess I should do this and I should do that. And how do I cram this all into my model? Release yourself of the feeling like you have to do everything and be everywhere just because other people are doing it first. And once you do that, and you can step back and say, why would I do this? Is it something that really lines up with those who I'm trying to serve? And there's a chapter in the book that's dedicated to considering your customer, member, patient, whatever you want to be classifying them. And I give a lot of different questions that you can be asking about them that's beyond just how old are they and what gender or whatnot, right? But being able to say something that seems really strange, like, if they were a Starbucks drink, what would they be and why? Or if they were a make and a model of a car, what would they be and why? And it feels very weird to ask these sorts of questions, but there are real reasons behind it because it can help you to understand motivation and align with what matters to them in a way that they can really feel seen, that goes beyond some of that demographic that we tend to look at. And so if you know that there's something that really is going to align with whomever you're speaking to, by all means, offer it. One, don't feel like you have to jump to a discount ever, especially if you're on that quality side. Really step back and say, what if I didn't? I don't have to do a discount. So maybe it's just a thing that we offer. And so when we think about the framing there, it may be that there's a perk or a benefit that comes to people that are members on that quality side. They get an extra something that can feel like you're not having to say it's a discount, something that's going to feel like it's cheapening what that opportunity is, right? On the value side, you can be doing discounts all over the place. It's kind of built into the model. Still be really thoughtful about it and don't just keep throwing things in, but also looking for ways that you can be having them be scarce or going to be helping someone to use that to be a decision motivator is something that's useful when you can incorporate that into the model.
One thing that I want to point out is that the idea of like you don't have to do it like everybody else. I love having so many stories on this podcast where physicians are sharing how they're doing it in their own communities. And if as a person listens, I think one of the funnest things is to say, "Oh, that was so interesting. If I did that in my community, I would do it the same, different, similar." And you literally can envision your business and how you would deliver it by listening to other people's stories, which I think is really awesome because it's not often that we find in medical school physician entrepreneurs talking to medical students. So there's a whole library of people to listen to. And Just put a note here if you're interested in this, which I definitely am. Definitely listen to Melina's podcast, The Brainy Business. It is amazing. And there's so many, like, you get to go down these rabbit holes into all these little topics of lead gen and how to think about that with lots of experts that she brings onto the podcast. So, how you mentioned discounting, not necessarily having to discount, and ways to reframe, because there's definitely people who put out there, we include 3 OMM sessions for those people who do osteopathic manipulation versus members get a discount of 50% off if they want the same service. So definitely something for people to think about as they're developing their copy and as they're developing their elevator pitches to talk about services that they're providing. And one more comment I wanted to make is the Starbucks question and all the questions that you had in envisioning one's ideal customer. It is really interesting. Like I would pause, I was listening to the book, I would listen and then pause, and then I would think about, yeah, that person's going to be on their Starbucks app ordering and driving to go pick up their order that they've already put in. So what things does that represent? They want convenience, they want lower barriers to accessing that convenience, and they want that they're tech friendly. So it's things like this that we have the ability to build our clinics the way that we want to and the way that it works for us and our patients, and going through the motions and the exercises of who would my ideal customer be in ways that I didn't think about asking myself. It was very cool to see all these questions that you had in a person envisioning their ideal customer. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you to Spruce Health for supporting the My DPC Story podcast. The ways we communicate have changed dramatically over the past decades, but technology and tools in healthcare have not kept pace. Patients want more access and digital convenience, as well as the ability to text their care teams. Care teams are inundated with more communication and rising expectations, but are still using tools and technology stuck in prior decades. Spruce Health created a solution for the tech-forward DPC practice by creating a communication product designed to serve both the patient and the doctor through intuitive HIPAA-compliant workflows, tagging, scheduled messages, and triage templates ready for use, whether you're on your phone or in the exam room. New users get 20% off for the first 12 months of a paid plan with code MARYAL20. That's MARYAL20. So check out Spruce Health today at sprucehealth.com or check out the link in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you for that. And just to make a case for why this matters, because potentially people are listening going, okay, yeah, that's a nice to add, but does it actually make that big of a difference? So I had a client that we were doing some just survey research and things on some of their clients, as well as talking to the leadership team. And one of the questions we asked was, if the company were a car, what would the make and model be? Like, what would they be and why? And one of the owners of this business had said that the company would be a Porsche Cayenne, that it's that high-end luxury, all these things we've already been talking about, right? And again and again and again, when I was asking some of their clients, the responses I was getting was along the lines of, they are a beat up old pickup truck. They are reliable and they're always there when you need them, right? So there is a clear mismatch here that if you ask a question like, how likely are you to refer us to a friend or family member? Are you happy with the service you're getting from us? Yes, they're very happy. But the problem is, if the owners are thinking about their business as a Porsche Cayenne, and their customers are thinking about them as a beat up old truck, it's a really big issue. And this is where for them, it was a quality value problem. And so recommendation to them and what they ended up doing is saying, are we going to say, hey, we really want to be the Porsche. And so we're going to change everything in how we're talking. We're going to really go all in on this thing. Or do you embrace what people already see you as and realize, okay, we've kind of been selling on value for a long time. And if we want to just own that and represent it and really embrace being that reliable truck that can get us anywhere and that means something to our clients, how do we go about doing that? But again, this is where asking a question like this can help to see if you have a disconnect. And then you can use that in a way that you can really go all in on kind of that quality or value.
And in this day and age where we have AI as well as human beings, I want to ask about on one side, on the AI side, do you have any prompts that you like to use for AI driven software to help people work through clarifying if they're speaking to more value or quality? And then also if you have your friends and family who are totally willing to read your website or listen to your elevator pitch, do you have any recommendations for people to practice when they're talking to their friends and family if they want to go down my business is a quality versus value business?
Sure. I think that you have some opportunities to play around if you can find a brand that is well known that you would be wanting to emulate in some way, even if it's in a totally different space than you're in, right? So just to go to the aspect of, we'll say Walmart, right? Or Costco or any of these that we would be putting in that value side, if that's where you're going to be, you could ask ChatGPT to write some language and say, write it as if it was for Walmart, right? And you'll have to play around and see what's going to kind of come up if you can find something that lines up. And then on the other side, write it as if the person buying this is, if we're selling to the Kardashians or something, right? Or you could try to see what's going to be coming up and find some prompts that might work for you. Always do proofreading, fix your own stuff, and don't fully rely on what comes up there. But it could be interesting to see how that language comes up. And you could say, make it bougie or add in some luxurious language or something, play around with it and kind of see what happens. Can be fun. With then the other piece of getting feedback from people, I say it's definitely good to ask the right people and limit how many people you ask. If there's someone that is just not, they're going to nitpick on everything in a way that's going to be keeping you stuck. And yes, they are a valued member of your life circle, but they might not be the best person to get feedback from on that website language. Or if they're not your ideal customer, yes, they may be, it's your sister, and she's a super bargain hunter and you're looking to be on the quality side. That feedback is just not going to align with what it is that you're trying to do. So just make sure you're barking up the right trees when you go and ask people. I would say in that way, if there is a friend that you can be thinking about or a family member or someone that is very much who you're targeting. If there's someone, and maybe you don't know them all that well, but someone that you would say, they are exactly who I want. If I could have 50 of them, this would be a dream. If you can find that person or a couple of them, keep them in mind as you are answering these sorts of questions. You can be saying what their Starbucks order is and whatever else. And then as you create that language, if you were to say, hey, I wrote this out, I'm launching this new business or I'm rebranding and looking to frame, and really you are my ideal customer. I'm curious, would you just take a look at this? Imagine that you were needing to transition your healthcare and you were going to go just check this out. Let me know where I'm missing the mark, right? Or what's aligning for you, what feels like it's compelling. And don't ask necessarily, would you join? Because they're going to say yes because they're talking to you, but asking some thoughtful questions there where they can be giving you feedback that you're ready to listen to. And maybe they actually will want to be your first new customer or member within here. And that's great. Or maybe they know someone that is looking for this, but asking those questions, helping them to feel valued and important is really useful as you're getting feedback. But just make sure that whoever you ask lines up with who you're going to be targeting.
Amazing. Something that I saw on social media, and don't say you didn't learn anything from social media because I learned so many things during the pandemic. But one of the things I saw that I thought was very cool was a person was asking an HR expert, like, how would you rephrase this particular saying or whatnot, to be very PC for the employees? So, as a behavioral economics expert, how would you reframe the idea that I'm going to talk about in the quality versus the value lens? So the idea of I'm a physician, I am able to deliver care because they have the time to deliver it. And the patients have the ability to message or text or send a portal message or come in for visits as many times as they need to. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Have you tried an AI scribe in your clinic? Well, I've tried so many, and I can say Heidi Health is the best AI scribe I have come across thus far. With Heidi Health, I can create unlimited, customizable templates for my notes to help me truly cut down on the time I'm spending charting. Template for pediatric well child check? Done. Template for weight loss management? Done. Some of my favorite things I've built into my AI template, beyond the general soap note, are having a list of actionables for our team to take after a patient visit, having the diagnoses listed, and creating an after-visit summary for our patients. Not only have I found Heidi Health to be the most helpful, customizable AI scribe so far, it's also more affordable than most out there. So try Heidi Health today and see how you can harness the power of an AI scribe for your practice. To get an entire month of Heidi Pro free, go to the homepage of mydpcstory.com and click on the Heidi Health ad.
Yeah. So if we look at this on the quality side, if we were going to be framing this, I might start with something along the lines of you are unique, you are important, you, the customer here, right? So you and your time is incredibly valuable, and you want to have direct access when you have a problem. Instead of Googling, what if you had access to an expert that already knew your history, that was so invested in you and was ready within 15 minutes or whatever this promise is to help you keep your valuable time, get the answers when you need them, whenever you need them, and is kind of at your, we'll say at your beck and call, but maybe that's a little bit more extreme than we want to get. But it's about valuing their time, how important they are, and that they have this kind of exclusive access. Maybe you were even to say the rich and famous still have doctors making house calls. You can have that yourself, right? And great news, I'm here for you and registered, whatever. So that could be kind of the path you would go down on the quality side. If you were going to be looking at the value side of this, I think that I might look at time in a different way, right? So to say, hey, for the busy moms, you're running in a bunch of different directions, and who has time to get to the doctor for yourself? Maybe we make time for the kids, but it's so hard to find the time to get an appointment between soccer practice and ballet. And what if you had a doctor that was there on your time? When you need something, you can schedule to what's convenient for you. It's quick, affordable, and you're taking care of yourself in a way that's going to help you to show up for your family, right? That's maybe for that mom nurturing mode, but in a way that doesn't have to take all day. You don't have to maybe drive across town or whatever. You can find the value points that line up with your practice. But it's about that. If you're looking for that busy mom, it's taking care of you in a way that's taking care of the family, but that's also quick, affordable, and really easy to be able to handle. Or again, like that bump, that bruise, and you can call and we know everything about you and your kids, and you can ask the question. And it's not just a nurse's hotline where you have to explain everything. You're getting me, and I'm here for you. No matter when, no matter what, all for this really great value that's less than what you would have been paying for traditional insurance or something. That aspect is the way I might go on a value side.
Super helpful. And I definitely think that there's listeners out there who are like, ooh, man, now I got to read all the paragraphs on my website, see if it's speaking to one versus the other. Is there mixed messaging? And definitely that's something to easily put into an AI to say, hey, I always put a seasoned marketing executive at said brand. I like to play around with that because the answers are very different versus like millennial who just graduated college and has like a first job attempt at marketing this paragraph. So love it. So let me ask you now about the customer journey. And the customer journey, which I loved how you presented it in the book, was not just about when the customer becomes a paying customer. You talked about the micro moments that happen along the customer journey. Can you speak to us about what a micro moment is, how to nourish them along their entire journey before and after they become a member at a practice?
For sure. And one of the key points that I haven't really talked about yet here, and a little bit of how our brain really works, and the whole first part of the book really is talking about that, is that we humans have been said to make as many as 35,000 decisions a day on average, each of us. So much that we're having to be constantly making choices. And the bulk of that is done subconsciously using this predictability habits and these rules of thumb, which is where this space of behavioral science works into. And so if we know that, and we understand some of those rules that that subconscious is using, and we know that really our life is this series of micro moments and tiny choices that we're making, and where that subconscious, which is doing the bulk of that, is able to say, "Ooh, I like that," or "This is interesting," or "What's this?" And it's pulling focus at various areas and making choices based on what it thinks is best at any given time. So the word choice you use, something that's going to be drawing someone in, that's making them feel excited and they're paying attention, remembering you, they're feeling curious, they're interested in what it is that you offer and how that could be of value to them. Those moments before the decision are so key. And it's important to know in this way, your company, your brand, everything that you offer is just this series of micro moments of decision points. And if they're not all lined up properly, case in point being quality moment, value moment, big discount, but it's luxury. It's confusing that we don't have that common story that's tying everything together. But if you do have to where things are aligned, it's just constantly reinforcing itself to the moment where someone is ready to make that choice. And in your case, if somebody's at this point only going to a doctor once a year, it may be a while before they're ready for you. And so you need to be interacting with them on a continual basis in a way that's reinforcing for that moment when they're ready. And so things like a lead magnet, a little bit of a monthly tip or a weekly newsletter or a podcast or something that's helping them to be getting this additional benefit even maybe sometimes before they're ready to buy, but it's helping to get them ready to go, is really just helpful to be priming and setting people up in those moments before the purchase that they will be thinking of you when the time comes to buy.
And then one last question, Melina, in terms of the person who's already become a member, but they don't see you that often, but they still do at baseline understand the value that you're bringing, whether you're quality or a value business model. What would you say to those people who are looking to build micro moments for the existing customers?
The great thing is that you can have a lot of the same stuff, right? So if you're thinking about messages that are going to be a value add for your ideal customer or member, if you can be having that communication and you're sending out those regular tips or things to be thinking about in between appointments, and you want to be thoughtful to what you really want them to do. Do you actually want them to be calling you constantly for everything? Probably not. But you want them to be thinking about you and maybe using this service a couple times a year, right? But what's the goal that you're trying to get here? And how can you make that clear in the way that you're going to be communicating so that they're getting value from that membership or subscription in a way that they don't think about canceling because they're getting a little something, little bites along the way. And they know that you're there when you need them or when they need you. And that's all really great. But it's not that you have a bunch of people that are never leaving you alone because that's not going to be of good value either. So, but leveraging something like social proof to say, most common question I got last month was about this, and here's the answer that I gave. Or if you're able to say, hey, it's getting into the summer, and I know that bee stings end up being something that's really important for a lot of people to be thinking about. How to know, here are 3 things to be more bee friendly, or like to what to do if there's a bee sting or something, right? That you can be sharing, when to know it's a problem, being proactive, that someone's thinking, thank you so much, because in that moment, I'm not going to want to have to go find this, right? So those sorts of things can be helping you be top of mind, that you're helpful before they even knew they needed to ask, in a way that they want to keep investing in that.
This has been so helpful, and I really hope that the audience takes away everything that you've said, puts a lens over their own business to evaluate, is their brand, copy, everything fitting in with the way that they want to continue in the future. So thank you so much, Melina, for joining us. And for those people who are like, I want to know more, please check out thebrainybusiness.com/my DPC story, where you can find all of Melina's books in written form as well as audio. And you can download a free chapter of her books as well. So thank you again so much for joining us and sharing today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of My DPC Story, highlighting the physician experience in the world of direct primary care. I hope you found today's conversation insightful and inspiring. If you want to dive deeper into the direct primary care movement, consider joining our My DPC Story Patreon community. Here, you'll have access to exclusive content, including more interview topics and much more. Don't forget to subscribe to My DPC Story on your podcast feed and follow us on social media as well. If you're able, I'd greatly appreciate if you could leave us a review. It helps others to find the podcast. Until next time, stay informed, stay healthy, and keep advocating for DPC. Read more about DPC news on the daily at dpcnews.com. Until next week, this is Marielle Concepcion.